Hi, I'm Ruth and I'm a coach of the ADHD advocate, and today I'm going to talk about practical strategies for thriving in marriage with ADHD. So, first, it's really important to understand that ADHD and how it shows up in your relationship and with yourself as well if you have got ADHD too. So, living with a partner who has ADHD can be really fun, hilarious, or inspiring, but it's also got its really unique challenges. There's so many incredible qualities that make people with ADHD the most amazing partners. But also, on the other hand, inevitably, symptoms of ADHD can lead to frustrations, misunderstandings, and sometimes like an uneven workload, which really affects the relationship. So today we're going to be exploring these challenges and giving some strategies that can help. So first and foremost, I'd say it's really important to learn as much as you can about ADHD and how it shows up in yourself or your partner. A great way to do this is to ask in a kind and gentle way what your partner's experience is, show some real curiosity with how their ADHD shows up, because sometimes they've got symptoms that you might not realize are the symptoms of the ADHD because they're quite sort of subtle and seems like they might just not care about things or be being laxy-daisy, but actually it's just an ADHD symptom that they're struggling to manage. So I can't emphasize enough how crucial it is to recognize that these challenges stem from the condition and not from like a lack of care or effort or on purpose not given enough attention. So here are some common challenges for people with ADHD relationships. So emotional reactions. Partners with ADHD may be really quick to anger or frustration. Part of having ADHD is this struggle with emotional regulation, and their struggles can overstimulate and can lead to misdirected responses, really. So, as an ADHD partner, you might feel like you're walking on eggshells or trying to avoid triggering these reactions, but it's important to think during any conflicts, sort of, is this my partner's truth, or is this the impulsivity or the lack of emotional regulation that's fueling this response? If arguments do get heated, it's important to have a plan set up before of how you might deal with them together. So this might look like having a few minutes to sit down and talk about what strategies work for you both, what you both need in those times when you might be a bit heated and you don't want to say things that you don't mean. So that might look like agreeing to have a few minutes or more to cool down and sort of remove yourself from the conversations before then returning again at a later stage, more regulated. Might look like 5 minutes later, 10, 20, a few hours, depending on how long the person might need to regulate themselves. So it's useful to have this plan in place before the arguments could potentially happen, or the disagreements, or any heated conversation, really. A useful phrase to keep in mind as well, because often partners with ADHD do quite a lot of sort of irritating things accidentally, might leave things around the house due to their forgetfulness, be distracted, accidentally cause issues for the other partner that they might have to deal with. So a useful phrase to keep in mind is, do I want to be right, or do I want to be in a relationship? Because um, it's really sometimes easy to over criticize the partner that has ADHD because they will do things a little bit wrong. Sometimes they will forget things, but it's really important to remember, like, is it important for me to actually pick up on this? And that phrase about do I want to be right in a relationship really helps with that. So impulsiveness is really important to speak about because ADHD can lead to impulsive behaviors like making rash decisions or interrupting during conversations. This might make discussions feel really uneven or frustrating. So it's essential to create a communication space where you both feel you can express yourselves without interruptions and get your point across in a calm and respectful manner. So this might even look like using a beanbag or a soft toy or something when you're having an emotionally charged conversation, and whoever's holding the beanbag or the toy is the person that can talk. And then when they're finished expressing their views, they can hand it over to the other person. And this can just really help as a visual and physical reminder for the person, for both people really, to not interrupt, because obviously in arguments it's quite easy to want to interrupt and get your point across, when actually we really need to be focusing on listening and understanding our partner so we can really see it from their side and find the common middle ground. Hyperfocus is a real strength in ADHD, but it can also create feelings of sort of neglect sometimes in relationships. So if your partner is like intensely focused on a task, it might seem like they're ignoring you. Setting boundaries around like focus time, shared time can help manage this dynamic. So it's useful for you to like make plans and almost agree like when you're going to have downtime together and make time for each other in that sense. It's also important for the non-ADHD partner to be aware that actually being interrupted you've got ADHD and you are focusing is can be very highly irritating and emotion provoking because often the person's taken a long time to either get focused and do this task, and interrupting it can really interrupt, and they might struggle to get back on task. Um, so it's just important to be aware that if your partner's deep in something, do you need to interrupt them with that question, or is it something that can wait? So it's really important to also pick up on like organization, because people with ADHD often, because of the executive functions that they don't quite fully have, they can struggle with disorganization and forgetfulness. So this can lead to an uneven distribution of household responsibilities, often making one partner feel like they're almost parenting, and this sort of parent-child dynamic can evolve, which isn't very healthy for the relationship. So some strategies for combating this we might be like discussing and agreeing on specific tasks, so you can establish a more, not necessarily fair, but a more um, amicable and agreed division of responsibilities. So this might look like writing down a list of all the tasks that need doing on a regular basis, and then um, thinking of your strengths and choosing the tasks that fit your strengths or the ones you don't mind doing. And then the remainder of the ones, you then need to discuss how best you can distribute these between yourselves, or if you might need to delegate them if neither of you are prepared to do them or don't have the skills to do them, for example. So it can be really hard uh, for relationships if the partner with ADHD doesn't remember to use strategies like calendars or to-do lists, because you end up feeling like you might have to remember everything for them or constantly give them reminders. And again, this falls into that parent-child dynamic. So with this, it's really important to set boundaries or even do a joint to-do list, something that's going to support them to minimize these issues without you having to be the sort of parent or the nag reminding. So anything you can do that supports them in an adult to adult capacity rather than that sort of adult to child. So it might be just about talking to them and asking them like, oh, what do you need to help remember this? And obviously things like ADHD coaching can really help the person with ADHD putting these strategies in place for themselves. So it's also important to talk about procrastination as well. So people with ADHD might accidentally forget tasks or delay responsibilities, and this can lead to frustration, especially when it's something that affects you both. Non-ADHD partners might feel burdened or resentful. Um, so in this situation, again, it's really important to set the boundaries, have this joint to-do list perhaps, and check in regularly on like different things. And again, this can really, ADHD coaching can really help the person with ADHD for this as well. So feeling undervalued as well. So criticism can hit really hard for people with ADHD due to just the fact that they just tend to have more criticisms throughout their whole life. Also, people with ADHD might suffer from rejection sensitive dysphoria, so it's maybe important to explore that with your partner and see how they respond to things, and if they do feel this heightened sense of rejection. It's really important to use like respectful language and validation, check in with your partner and just show them gratitude and let them know that you appreciate the small things they're doing. And be really mindful of how you word things, because if your partner does have rejection sensitive dysphoria, then even just wording things in a certain way can sort of trigger that. So it's just about being really sensitive to their needs, but also talking about it and maybe explaining that when I say this, it's not, I'm not meaning to reject you and just getting my opinion across, etc., etc. Just giving them that love and the support that they really need. So, tips for improving the relationship. I would say self-care for both of you is essential. It can't really be an afterthought. It has to be something that you find a way to build into your life. So ensuring that you're getting enough sleep, exercise, personal time to recharge. This will help with every aspect of your life, but also will help you show up to your relationships in the most positive way as your best self. It will give you more patience, more empathy, and more enjoyment of life, actually, in general, just from getting those core things that we all need as humans. Um, Educating yourselves. So both partners should learn as much about the ADHD as possible. Understanding the condition can really help reduce the blame and encourage empathy. There are loads of resources on the internet, whether you like reading books, podcasts, YouTube videos, workshops. There's so much out there. Communication techniques. So communication is so key in any relationship, and sort of even more so when partners have ADHD because they might forget previous communications, or they might need sort of more regular check-ins. So establishing like a sort of culture of open dialogue, having these regular check-ins where both partners can express their feelings and discuss challenges without judgment. This can foster like understanding and reduce frustration in relationships. Um, when you're having these conversations, there's some techniques you can use. So it's really important to use I feel statements to express emotions without placing blame or judgment on the action that the other partner might have done. Active listening is so important. So instead of concentrating on getting your point across, really slow down and think like, what is my partner trying to communicate? What do they need? And you can even ask them questions like that, like, what do you need from me in this situation? What can I do to better support you? Um, because things like that will really help your partner express themselves, express their emotions, and process things. And sometimes people with ADHD really struggle to manage and process their emotions due to the dysregulation they can sometimes experience with emotions. Visual reminders and lists can really help ADHD partner keep on track of tasks and responsibilities. So that can really help having some sort of joint visual setups and things to support them. Um, Even just little things like if you notice they're always losing their keys, putting up a little hook where they can put their keys, and if you see them around the house, you can always put them there as well. And think just little sort of care and things like that, just that you know that will support them in their daily life. Staying connected is so important. So especially in today's busy lives with jobs, and if you've got kids and all of the other responsibilities that come with being an adult, really, it's really important to really schedule, plan, and make time for date nights, time together, just time to remind yourselves of that the sort of fun and connection and why you're in a marriage together. And it can really help strengthen the emotional bond, especially during challenging times. It's really important to have this joint shared time that is enjoyable for both of you, where you can relax into the relationship. Because sometimes with the busy lives we live, we end up just sort of being almost partners in getting jobs done and partners in looking after the kids. And it's important to really get back to the sort of roots of the relationship and the things you enjoy doing together as a partner. So, structures. So, create systems to help manage daily tasks, view calendars, reminders, to do lists, visual charts, visual aids, if that helps your partner as well. It'll help you both feel more organized. Uh, Break tasks into smaller chunks, and that might be helping your partner break tasks in smaller chunks. A really useful question you can ask them is, "Oh, what's the first step you need to do?" Or how can you start doing the first step? What actually is that? And just something like that can really help somebody with ADHD just actually get started and realize what they need to do. Developing consistent routines together can really help with predictability and habits and routines, so that life sort of falls into a more consistent um, flow, really. And that can help the partner with ADHD feel more grounded. It can help um, relieve some of the pressure on their executive functions, because things are happening sort of more natural and habitual, so their brain can then be freed up to think about other things rather than managing the daily sort of churn. Um, Creating a really sort of supportive, sort of zen, relaxing environment can be really helpful. So that might be creating clutter-free space in your house, removing distractions during conversations, putting phones away. This can really help both partners focus better and communicate more effectively. Um, and finally, just like remembering that both partners are human, and embracing this like flexibility and this humor, and just enjoying the quirks of the ADHD. It's got so many positives as well as obviously some inevitable negatives. But in general, you married your partner for a reason, you're with your partner for a reason, and it's important to sort of remember that and practice gratitude on a regular basis, even if it's just listing the things you're grateful that they've done. Sometimes if they've done something irritating that day that's bothering you, it's really helpful just to actually think of like one other thing that they've done that day that actually you really value and you appreciate, and even telling them that, and that can really help alleviate those niggling feelings. Laughter's so powerful as well, so to diffuse the tension. So again, like those date nights and things where you can have time to be together, laugh and enjoy are really important. Um, Also, consider counselling or therapy as well. So it's really important for individuals, but also like couples, and it really can provide a safe space to explore challenges if you are finding it difficult to communicate um, unaided. Um, and unfortunately, there is still a bit of a stigma around therapy. I think that is lifting these days, but um, it is really good. And even if your health relationship is like perfectly healthy, it's still really therapy is still an amazing tool if you have got the resources and the funding to have therapy, because it just maintains that brilliant relationship. And your partner and the relationship with your partner is one of the most important relationships in your life, and so you really do want to nurture that. It's not something that you want to just put on the back burner because it will affect you every day of your life. So it's really important to nurture that and to make sure it's in the relationships in its best health it can be, really. So in conclusion, ADHD can significantly impact marriage, but with understanding, communication, commitment, couples can navigate these challenges effectively by really focusing on self-care, setting clear boundaries, open communication, and building a more stronger, resilient partnership. You can get through the troubles that pop up every now and then with ADHD. Remembering that you're in this together, and with the right tools, your relationship can thrive despite the hurdles that ADHD may present. Um, so thank you for your time, and I hope this talk offers you some valuable insights into your relationship journey. Thank you, and all the best.